During the development of X-Men 97, Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige, the man running the studio, talked with a team and deeply considered making this series part of the sacred timeline that takes place in the 90s. Okay, so this is coming at us from Inverse, and well, we get an interesting piece of detail here from one of the directors of X-Men 97. And they specifically talked about what it was like to get the go-ahead to work on this series and how Marvel Studios was involved. And what's revealed here is that Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige went back and forth with them multiple times when they were developing this series. And what they were talking about was just taking this series, X-Men 97, when they didn't know if it would be a direct continuation or not of X-Men the Animated Series, and placing it into the sacred timeline. And having the series still take place in the 90s, obviously X-Men 97, still in 97, but we didn't know at the time, the director says, and the people creating it, if it would be a sequel to X-Men the Animated Series. So they went back and forth a lot, even when they committed to making this a sequel, discussing, do they just put this into the MCU and this is now the X-Men that have been there all along? And that this conversation was ongoing. They kept going back to it. They kept discussing it. They kept trying to find ways to fit it in. It just didn't work out like that. And they went to the, standalone decision of it's just a sequel to X-Men the Animated Series. Now think of this for a second. If you were to do a chronological viewing, you're watching Captain America, the first Avenger, and then you watch Captain Marvel. And then after Captain Marvel, you start watching X-Men the Animated Series, and then X-Men 97, and then Iron Man 1. That is wild to me to consider that they were thinking about that. And imagine the amount of retcons and things that this would add to Marvel, right? Especially with Spider-Man showing up and all that. Like, it just would have got confusing. But I also understand how, when this started work as just an X-Men animated series, how they were like, well, do we make this part of it? But then also, you would be limited to cameos, stories, the impact on the world, and it wouldn't make sense. So they ultimately made the right decision by not making this part of the MCU, but a part of me wants to know what that would have looked like and what the reaction would be look like, because it's absolutely insane to think about.